Clinton is urging Congress to expand a federal hate crimes law following the beating death of a gay student in Wyoming. Mathew Shepard died at a Colorado hospital yesterday after he was brutally attacked last week. Cynthia Bowers reports.
We shall overcome.
Friends and supporters of Mathew Shepard gathered at sunset last night.
I knew deep down immediately that this was going to be a hugely important story for our community, and that how the media covered this was going to have a huge impact on people's perceptions of the gay and lesbian community.
When the media hit Laramie, again, I think it was an opportunity for Laramie to step up, show the pride in that community, to show that we don't condone any kind of activity like that.
I remember greeting people as they came in. Some we knew and some we didn't. I remember the beautiful service, beautiful music. And Matt had been cremated, and his urn was in a beautiful oak box in front of the altar. And it had a ceramic mountain scene on it, and everybody would touch it when they went by.
McKinney will be the first to stand trial. Russell Henderson pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms earlier this year.
Aaron McKinney sentenced to 2 life sentences. One of those life sentences is for his conviction for felony murder and second-degree murder.
More than a year ago, our son Matthew was murdered because he was gay. He was the victim of a brutal crime motivated by hatred. The outcome of this trial will never bring Matthew back to us, but we believe that justice was served today.
Tell us a little bit. I'm sure you get this asked all the time. It's like, how do you move on from such a thing? Like, you know, it's just not the natural order of children and parents. Your parents are supposed to go first, right? And it's just not the natural order. It's like, how do you? I'm sure you get this all the time, but how do you motivate yourself to move on from such a tragedy?
Well, it was a couple things happened. We were actually living in Saudi Arabia when Matt was attacked. And so we had a long trip to get back to him when we got the call that he was in the hospital. And well, we didn't even know what had happened. They didn't know what had happened either yet. But it gave us a lot of time to think about what it is we actually were going to be about as a family. And when we got to Matt and saw all the media attention that was being given to this incident after more information came out about what actually had happened to Matt, we were getting a lot of calls and messages. And back in, it was, 20 plus years ago, the internet was just a little thing, especially in regards to social issues, social media, emails. Emails kept crashing the Hollywood hospital server. So the messages were like, as accepting parents, can you not share your story so other families understand how important it is to accept your children? And we were just overwhelmed with the desire to want to do something for Matt and his friends. And we thought we might have a voice for a little while and be able to share our experiences as accepting, loving parents, and how confused we were that there were parents out there who didn't accept their kids when they, took the big step to come out, how hard it was. We made a pact, the 3 of us, Dennis and I and Matt's brother, that we would just do whatever we could as long as we had a voice. Now, of course, at the time, we didn't think 20 years later, we'd still be here doing this. People move on from one tragedy to the next. But in all honesty, it gave me a reason to get out of bed every day. It gave me a purpose. It gave me a reason to, to still be here, I guess. We knew Matt would be doing this work if he were still here. So that was a motivator. But we just really wanted the world to be a better place for his friends and his peers. And if you could have any influence in that arena, we'd be there.
So you did embark, so you've developed this foundation that basically you're teaching people how to empower them is how I get that, to raise their voice. So like, how are you doing that?
Well, I think one of the most powerful things in anybody's open of hearts and minds is storytelling. When you make an issue personal, when you relate the personal pain or angst or joy in any story, it has a greater impact on someone than just in the abstract. That's really, when you cut right down to all the work we do, it's all related to telling that story and how it affected us and how many other people were affected by what happened to Matt and how just wrong the whole situation was. And the really wrong part about this is it's still happening, and it's even gotten worse in the last few years in the States, especially. So, you know, the storytelling has a huge impact, and that's really what we try to do, is help people tell their story.
Do you find over the last, like we've experienced this in Canada as well, where it seems to be very, it's very visual. Like it seems to be not in the shadows so much of it, like this anti-LGBT or racism, or have you found that just seems over the last few years it's more apparent?
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's just start with the United States. In the last few years, we had a very interesting character as president of the U.S. And
well, you're kind.
Well, I could go further, but there's really no point. Everybody knows what I'm going to say. So, you know, and his administration was equally negative about anything that wasn't straight white Christian male. So there's that, right? So all he did was empower people, embolden them, give them credibility during his administration. And we follow, I think, whether we realize it or not, we really follow what leadership, how they behave. Things were so different in the Obama administration because being kind and civil rights and things just about creating a better humanity, that was their whole goal. And in the following administration, that was absolutely not their goal. Their goal was to tear all that down. And the people who were already on that side, the haters, the racists, the anti-Semites, everybody that just, you know, everybody that isn't trying to make the world a better place, in my opinion, it just got more bold. And when you look at Europe, they took a hard right turn. I'm not that familiar with your politics as a whole in Canada. But it just felt like the whole world just took this hard right, you know, turn against anything that would empower minorities. So, and it has become more visible, more out there. They used to sort of hide it. In the US, the Klan were the hoods, so nobody would know who they were. They don't even do that anymore. They're on social media bragging. So there's that.
Yeah, Canada's kind of like I think we're kind of at a turning point. Is where we're at. We have a liberal federal government now. Well, we've had a liberal federal government for a while with Justin Trudeau, who is very good looking, which kind of doesn't make it so bad. But we definitely still struggle. Would you say that, Mackenzie?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, being part of the community as well, you know, there's always going to be discrimination. You know, what our job is to give the voice to the person who feel like they don't have a voice, and being able to take that, excuse me, and inspire change with that. So, Judy, I totally relate to you saying that it's all about giving people the voice, because you know what, one thing that really stands out about what I've been reading up on your family and your life and what happened was that there is a whole community of people out there who wish that they had a mom like you and a dad like that.
That's kind, thank you. We were felt so fortunate that the community welcomed us into their lives, and it was really important to feel a part of that. So
Yeah, no, I'm getting teary-eyed.
there was a steep learning curve. Don't get me wrong. We were living in Saudi Arabia, for God's sake. So there were a lot we had to learn about what had been going on the years we were out of the country.
Yeah.
But we needed to be part of Matt's family.
Yeah, like I was really blessed with a really good family who supported me no matter what, because my parents weren't supposed to have children and then they had me and my sister. But there are so many people in this community who feel like they can't talk. They feel like they can't do anything because their parents don't accept them. And when you're in your early 40s, early 50s and 60s and you still haven't come out because of your family, it's devastating. So, kudos to you. Kudos.
Thank you.
Judy, do you want to tell us a little bit more about Matt so people really understand how wonderful he was? Because everything I've read is very inspiring.
Thank you. Matt was funny, smart. He smoked too many cigarettes. He he was actually in Laramie. He was a student in Laramie when he was killed, and he was like every 21-year-old, too much time in the bar with too many cigarettes and not enough time in the classroom. Right? I would not want my 21-year-old self to be memorialized forever. But he had a passion for making everybody feel welcome. I think probably the term that would best describe Matt was empathy. He was an extremely empathetic individual from when he was a toddler, just caring about how other people felt, taking on their, if they were uncomfortable or they were being bullied, he would be taking on that pain and trying to make it better. He was a peer counselor in grade school and junior high and high school all those years because he was a good listener. He was also an incessant talker. He had a passion. He wanted to be in the Foreign Service as a career. The time he wanted to do it, it was really sketchy to be gay and in federal government. It was on paper, they made it seem okay, but it really wasn't okay, I don't think, in the bigger picture. He just wanted everybody to be allowed to be themselves, to be happy. He loved theater, thought he could sing and dance, but he couldn't. He took it very seriously and was in a lot of the college productions here in junior college when we still lived in Casper. He loved people, very much an extrovert, politically savvy, obsessed with politics, really is a better way to put that. MySpace fan back in the 90s, right? So very, very tech savvy, as much as you could be back then. He was really fun and at the same time really quite annoying. So he was just every mother's son. I wrote a book called The Meaning of Mathew, trying to explain to people, please not make him be an icon or some unattainable goal that young people would be searching for, because that's not who he was. He was just like everybody else, with dreams and faults and issues. He suffered with depression occasionally, and he was just like everybody else. The way we lost him is really why he is admired, I guess. And I have every confidence that had we not lost Matt, he would be admired. He would be admired for the work he would be doing. To be admired because you were murdered in a most obscene way is not anybody's dream. But he wanted to make a difference, and this is how he's doing it.
And he did. He did make a huge difference, especially for someone like me, a 33-year-old who's been in the community and lived as a gay man. That story reached all the way over here to Canada to find some child who is so insecure about their life, and watched that story and was like, wow, that for me, it wasn't necessarily Judy that was the inspiring part. It was everything that went with it. It was the fact that his voice turned into a massive cry for help in the community. And, wow.
It sort of felt like the straw that broke the camel's back, really. That it became so publicized by mainstream media. For the first time, a story about a gay man being murdered was not the National Enquirer headline. It was a headline of the New York Times. And they told it in a professional, sensitive way, honest and truthful, not sensationalized, not blaming Matt for what happened to him because he's gay. Of course, that's going to happen. It was a different take on the whole situation. So it spoke to many people in the straight community in ways that previous incidents did not. And of all the correspondence that we received, easily half of it was from the straight community saying how unaware they were that these kinds of things happen in the gay community. Well, they were never exposed to it. The only thing they knew about the gay community was glitter on Gay Pride Parade and the AIDS pandemic. That's all they knew. And that's the fault of the media, not telling the story correctly.
Yeah, wow. I'm kind of blown away by the whole thing. Yeah, and that's not easy for me.
Normal thing. That's not normal.
Well, Judy, how do people find you, and how can they reach out to you?
Well, we have a website, MathewShepard.org. Easy to find. We do speaking engagements. We do a lot of educational, raising awareness really about hate crimes. We've been working with police departments over the last, since the US federal hate crime law was signed in 2009, that now includes LGBT and gender identity and expression, and disability and gender. We've been doing a lot of seminars with law enforcement, with the FBI and DOJ, the Department of Justice. That all stopped during the Trump administration. Oh, I said it. I didn't mean to say it. The previous guy, his administration, they shut down all the civil rights issues. So we sort of did them on our own and with other organizations. But we're hoping that we will become, again, part of DOJ's hate crime education process. But you can find us on MathewShepard.org.
That's awesome. And do you charge, or is it kind of like a cooperation? If you can pay, you pay, but if you can't, we'll work it out kind of thing?
Well, it's situational, right?
Yeah.
This is how we maintain our existence, other than private donations and occasional grants. We don't get government funding, so we do appreciate fees when we speak and do seminars. I did a lot of colleges for many years, but now the world of college students is not the world of Matt's anymore. The Laramie Project is largely what drives requests for our attention now. I don't know if you're familiar with the Laramie Project play.
No.
Really? Oh, it's so cool. In the early 2000s, a theater group from New York City went to Laramie and interviewed hundreds of residents and their reaction to what had happened to Matt. And the play was created out of those interviews.
Wow.
And it's been performed all over the world and translated into probably as many languages as you can think of. And the reason is not because it's about Matt, but because it's about the situation. If the story were about a racist incident or a religious, for example, if it were a Muslim that had been attacked or a person of Jewish faith, rather than someone who was gay, it's exactly the same story. It's about intolerance and ignorance and hate. And it's a profound piece of work. And that really is one of the reasons why the story lives, is through the Laramie Project. There was a documentary done about Matt called Matt Shepard is a Friend of Mine. We showed it at the Toronto Film Festival a few years ago. It was done by one of his friends from high school, but it's from the viewpoint of his friends. So there's an aspect of Matt that a lot of people will be new to a lot of people.
Well, we'll definitely share those things on the show for you and stuff as well, and the website, and make sure people can reach out to you.
Thank you.
Judy, thank you so much for taking the time. I do know we do know you're busy. You've got a lot on your plate, and we sure appreciate you taking some time out to be with us. And I hope you'll come back, and I hope you'll come and join us when we do our TV version as well, when we start filming again in the summer. So there's a little bit of time. Yeah. Thank you, Judy, so much for sharing your story and what you're going through and how you're moving on and making a difference in the world, because you are making a difference, and that's important. For the right reasons.
That's very kind.
Well, pigeons, big thank you to Mackenzie Drive, as always, looking all sexy as usual. And Judy, thank you again. We so appreciate you. And pigeons, never underestimate the voice you have and the person you are, because you too can make a difference. Bye-bye, pigeons. We'll see you real soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you.